Hi, this is James Jude Courtney. I play the Shape, a.k.a. Michael Meyers in Halloween. And you're listening to Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. Today we have a special guest returning to the show, James Jude Courtney. Welcome back, James.
Glad to be here, Pat.
Now, first off, congratulations again on the success of Halloween 2018. You and the rest of the crew, you guys obviously put a lot of work into bringing this character back to the big screen. So what was it like just to have your portrayal of this horror icon met with such high praise?
Wow. I was really just happy for everybody because the amount of time and effort and blood and sweat and tears that we all poured into making 2018. It's when you have 80, 100, 120 people working on a project, to have that much love and that dedication, be received by the fans so positively is just beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful, and I'm honored to have played this role and to have worked with such luminous, talented people.
Yeah,
and so it felt great.
And how I'm curious, how quickly were you told that there would be not one but two sequels to follow up, and that you were going to be brought back as Michael Myers? After well before the movie was released, because David Green and Ryan Turek and Malik and Ryan Freeman and everybody involved, Jamie, we all knew what we had because we were there shooting it. So there was no doubt in any of our minds that we'd made something special. And then it's up to the luck of the draw. I mean, how does the audience respond? Do they love it as much as we do? Well, obviously they did. And, from that, we knew based on the way that I had sort of embodied the Shape as Nick Castle created it, and then, expanded and expounded in my own reality. It was pretty clear that I was going to be the man for the run of David Green's involvement. And certainly Malcolm Cobb felt that way, and Ryan Turek felt that way. And so we all just pretty much understood that to the best of our ability, we were all going to come back to make the next two. And so for this one here, when I did my contract negotiations, I signed the contract for Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So we're good to go. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I that was kind of another thing I was going to ask, was this something, so you guys, you had an idea. I mean, obviously the movie was special, so you kind of had the idea that, you guys might be coming back for, if they were to do a sequel, like a follow-up project.
Oh yeah. And the amazing thing is when we came back to shoot Halloween Kills, like 99.9% of the people who worked on it from top to bottom were there. There were a few people who couldn't make it back because of other commitments in some of the departments, but it was amazing to have the exact same people back. There were people who came back, just to work for days or weeks until they had to move on to other commitments. But we're not going to miss out on the opportunity to be back with the family.
And no, I think that it goes with that saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So it's great that all you guys were able to come back for this one. One of my favorite thing, or one of the things that I think many fans appreciated, including myself, was just that Halloween 2018, it made Michael Myers scary again. So was that something that was like a main focus for you guys going into that first film?
I think, from a perspective of what David and Danny and Jeff Bradley created in the script with Malik and Ryan Turek and David, Roughhouse, Blumhouse, Trancas, what they all got together on was going back to the original and, capturing and then expounding upon, what it is John Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Nick Castle had created, and Jamie had created. So the focus was, for them to create that fertile ground, and then it all starts at the top, man. And I told David at the end, the very end, I thanked him for being such an amazing director and the best director I've ever worked with, and that's absolutely the truth. And
then later I said, man, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I mean, I've never seen a director check his ego at the door the way David Green does. I mean, he elicits and solicits creative ideas and creative input from every angle and possible source while we're working. And so, when you live in that creative environment and you're working with people and you're riffing, I mean, it's like a jazz ensemble. I mean, like a really tight jazz ensemble. You just know where you're going. You don't need a music sheet in front of you. You just riff, man. And your boys riff with you. And that's, we knew what we were in for when we showed up for Halloween Kills. More of the same.
Yeah. And, for the first film, a standout scene for me was definitely the ending, where Michael Myers, he's staring up at the family from the basement as, everything's kind of burning around him. Can you just kind of talk about, the filming of that particular scene?
Yeah, man, because we went back, that was part of reshoots. That was part of the, reshooting the ending, because the ending that we had shot, which I thought was beautiful, and I really had some special moments with Andy and Jamie both, but it was not exactly, it's like every scene in the movie has to propel you to the next scene, and if it doesn't, it's not necessary. It's superfluous and even a drag on the energy of the project. So the final scene needed to be something that propelled us into the sequel. So when I got there, the stunt coordinator Ron Hutchinson couldn't make it. He had another commitment. So we brought in another stunt coordinator, and he was he wasn't used to working with me. So Tom was, he was like, yeah, well, I think we need to use a double in the fire, because, it's dangerous. It takes a lot of nerve, a lot of focus and concentration, especially to work for fire, because it's so unpredictable. But for myself, I was like, no, man, no, I'm going in that fire. And then Chris Nelson went in and said, look, the mask changes with who puts it on, because that mask was built to James's face. So, look, man, I'm not putting that mask on anybody else but Jim Courtney. And so basically, and rightly so, people who haven't worked with me wouldn't know how I handle those really critical situations. And, but once, I made my feelings known, and Chris Nelson sort of put his foot down, David and Ryan and everybody were like, yeah, okay, let's do it, man. And so, shooting that scene, we did two takes on it. 2 Nomex suits soaked in fire retardant gel. Almost immediately, from the time the explosion was on, the heat was so intense. It's like if you were to sit, a lot of people have had this experience. You're sitting, it's cold, you're camping, or you're out in your backyard, you got a bonfire. Yep. It's cold, so you don't want to leave the fire, but your jeans are getting so hot, they feel like they're going to burst on fire. Well, that's the kind of heat you feel immediately. Jeez. Even with 2 Nomex suits on, and, it's hot, dude. And it's burning, your whole body's burning, and then what you're waiting for is a bite. And, the bite, I got a bite on the neck the first time and a bite in my thigh the second time. And as soon as you get that bite, I literally had like 5 to 7 seconds to back out of the flame, and then if I was on fire, I'd get hit with CO2. So, but the thing about it is when, so I had to back down the stairs and walk away from the fire. And the beauty of doing stuff like that is you have to, I had to move very slowly, very deliberately, and very calmly. Otherwise, I would fan more heat and create more problems for myself.
Yeah.
When the explosion went off, my eyes were closed, my mouth was closed, and then I had to breathe in very, very short breaths. I mean, they're like, because the flames were so intense that I would burn the epithelial lining of my mouth and throat. If I tried to breathe through my nose, I would fry my nose. There's no way I could have done it. So, being calm enough and centered enough to be in there for a very, very long time, much longer than you see on screen time. But what that does is it brings you to, and it was really beautiful, because I just saw recently a clip of Kobe Bryant, where he uses Michael Myers, the theme from Michael Myers or from Halloween, where he used it to focus for big games and big times. And he talked about how what he did and what an actor does is the exact same thing. You put yourself in a cage and you've got to exist in that cage and nothing else exists outside of that cage. So the calm, centered, focused place that I went to be able to be in that fire and to be in that precarious situation, dude, if I could live in that place all my life, I'd put the Dalai Lama to shame. I mean, that's a focused spiritual place.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm not the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is. I just get to be, I get to be a person who occasionally gets put in situations where I'm called upon to go into a very deep, spiritual, centered, grounded place, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, it came out, the scene, like I said, the scene came out, beautifully. I know a lot of people, that was, one of their favorite scenes that I had talked to. So, I mean, I'm sure it must be extremely emotionally, satisfying getting to see that, especially once, the final product was to come out.
Yeah, and, in doing that, there's so much nuance. Like, we didn't want a lot of movement, and so the movement I allowed my body to give in that scene was just enough, I felt, to let the audience know that this was not CGI. This is a real human being surrounded by real fire, and it could go sideways any second.
Which is crazy. I mean, just hearing that, it's super intense and kind of ties into something else, I wanted to ask you, obviously you being a stuntman, oftentimes, this is a good example. You can take quite a beating during like filming. So how do you prepare yourself, both physically and mentally for stuff like this?
Well, physically, I've never stopped training hard. I've trained hard my whole life, and I've been, very blessed to have had good coaches and good martial arts instructors, and have trained with fellow stuntmen who are world champion fighters, and I've had a Kali Chakra initiation from the Dalai Lama. I mean, I have a deep spiritual practice. So the spiritual place is really kind of even the easiest in a way, because and I can't remember the Chinese term, but the word is no mind, and in Japanese as well. I mean, the idea when you're in a ring boxing, when you're fighting in the street, when you're playing in the NFL, whatever you're doing, we need to get our technique to the place, our consciousness to the place where there's no mind. We're not thinking about anything. We're just in the moment doing what we do, or doing what we do best to the best of our ability. So that part is years and years and years of preparation. And that's what allowed me to grab the essence of what Mick Castle did, draw it into my being and allow that to grow and blossom in the way that it would naturally do. As far as the training goes, especially in a really brutal, and trust me, Halloween Kills was much more brutal than Halloween 2018. At a certain point, both sides of my ribs were just one big bruise, and
Jeez.
My meniscus in my knee was banged up. My left hamstring was threatening to pull out at any moment, which would have been devastating. So, it took therapists, a couple of weeks to get into my rotator cuff and labrum because it was so beat up on my left shoulder. I mean, it's, so the beating part, the physical part, that's training. I mean, guys like, when you think about it, like Muhammad Ali had Larry Holmes for a sparring partner.
Yep.
So by the time Larry Holmes jumped into the ring, he was taking punches from Muhammad Ali. Wasn't anybody going to hit him harder than Muhammad Ali, so he was seasoned already. And that's what a good stuntman does. And the guys that I worked with on Halloween Kills, the actors are a little bit squirrely. You don't know what you're going to get with actors. But trained stuntmen who are usually highly accomplished martial artists, you know exactly where that blow is going to go, and you know exactly how deep it's going to go. And I remember this, in the first in Halloween 2018, and I certainly experienced it again in Halloween Kills. It's like like you wake up after a night or a day of sleeping, and roll out of bed and just beat to hell, just beat up. It feels like you just played in the Super Bowl and you got the shit kicked out of you, but damn it, we won.
Oh, I can imagine.
That makes all the difference in the world.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, you can tell that, you put in a lot of hard work, and I think that's, something that a lot of people, a lot of the fans, I think that's why they really appreciate, your character, because they can see how much hard work, you put into this, every day while filming. I recall, actually, you said earlier just that, Halloween, it was a very collaborative environment. So I'm just curious, did you have like any input regarding like any of the kill scenes throughout the film, like maybe adding something that wasn't initially in the script?
For the most part, I stayed out of making those decisions because this is such a right brain character for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the process of what and throwing in ideas and a little bit here, a little bit there, because of course I had to inform the movement based on what my body does and my experience with knife fighting and my experience with various martial perspectives, what's safe, what's not safe, especially if I'm working with an actor as opposed to a stunt person. Certainly there was that input, but just a little because, the stunt coordinator, Ron in the first film airing for 2018, Aaron Armstrong in this one, very talented people. Tom, very talented people. But you have to communicate. There's one particular scene in this one where I had an idea that was not a kill scene, and I'm not going to say which one it was, but it was really kind of funny. It kind of threw me, actually. So, David Green and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, well, I kind of like this idea. And he goes, well, okay, we have this choice, which one do you like? I said, I think this is interesting because it's going to be different. And so when we were prepared to move, and shoot that particular scene, David said, he goes, all right, Shake, this was your idea, run with it. And I was like, whoa, dude, you're asking me to direct it? I'm like, whoa. I wasn't prepared for that because I'm so right brain in this character. So all of a sudden to jump over to my left brain and go, okay, what we need is this and this and this, and this is the way I think it should be seen. But that was super easy because David is, that's just David. He's just such a collaborative, incredibly gifted director. But for the most part, I chose with this character to, for the most part, just to play within the sandbox that had been created for me.
That's awesome, though, that, like you said, it was just a creative environment, and David Green, he encouraged that. So, that's always good. I feel like when you can work in that kind of environment and kind of not be afraid to share, different ideas off of each other. Now, so Halloween Kills, it comes out this October. I got a chance to actually talk to Anthony Michael Hall, who plays, Tommy Doyle, this past November at Rhode Island Comic-Con. And he was just telling me, the movie's very intense and brutal, as actually, you were kind of just referring to. So I'm curious to hear just your thoughts on it without obviously, giving away like any kind of spoilers or anything like that. And how does it stack up, do you think, in your mind, to some of the previous like installments?
Well, we're not paying attention to any installments, and I am certainly not. And there's some wonderfully talented people who have worked on the installments, from after 1978. Rick Rosenthal is a friend. Nancy Stevens is a friend. I think Rick did a beautiful job on the Halloween she directed. There have been some very fine Michael Meyers and their own input and their own takes on the character and how he moved, and it's all wonderful. But what we did was sort of wiped all that out. What exists in our world is 1978, 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends.
Yep.
That's all that exists.
And
so for us, we have to make the natural progression from 1978 to 2018 to Halloween Kills, and the ante has to be upped. The ticking bomb has to be more intense. Otherwise, we've just done what we did before. So yes, Anthony is Mike, as he prefers to be called, is absolutely right, man. We definitely pumped up the volume on this one.
Which that's awesome. I can't wait to see it. And what's really cool this time around is, in Halloween 2018, you guys had, Jamie Lee Curtis came back, John Carpenter came back, Nick Castle. So you had, those guys returning to the franchise. But then with Halloween Kills, we see even more familiar faces, such as Kylie Richards, Charles Cyphers, and, Nancy Stevens. So it was basically almost like a Halloween reunion. Can you, just talk a little bit about, what the atmosphere was like on set and just what it was like having all those people kind of back working on a Halloween film?
That was awesome. Well, first of all, it was great to see Nancy because, dude, I played tennis at her house for freaking 10 years with my, girlfriend at the time, Sally. And, so when I walked on set and there's Nancy, we're like, oh my God, just like, cause I had moved to the East Coast, so I haven't seen her for several years. And, so it was awesome hanging out with Nancy. Just awesome. She's just a dear friend and a very talented person and a really good-hearted human being. And what matters most to me about her, or one of the things I really admire about her, is she's a humanitarian, man. She does a lot of work for a lot of people. And, Charles Cypher, who I'd never met before, he's awesome, man. The dude has a story for everything, and it's not bullshit. I mean, the man has lived. He's done lots of cool stuff, and so sitting down with him and just like, sitting down with your bawdy uncle who has no filters. He's going to tell stories and he doesn't care who hears, and so it was so much fun, and he was great. He's a consummate professional, like so much fun to work, and Nancy too. I mean, we had some pretty hairy stuff, Nancy and I, to do, and Kylie. I mean, what a sweetheart, what a beautiful woman, and it was just great to have. I mean, and she's a hellfire cat, man. She and I had to mix it up, and she went for broke. She's not a woman to be messed with.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's good to hear that, you guys, it sounded like you had a great time filming on set. I can't, obviously all of us, myself, the Halloween fans can't wait to see, what the finished product is going to look like. For you, James, getting to come back, as Michael Myers for another film, does your approach change at all for this character, coming back like this, the second time, this third time?
Well, the second time was a continuation, right? So I had to be in the exact same place.
Yep.
Because it's the same night, So there really is no other approach than, going back to that spiritual place. I mean, again, it goes back to no mind. Mm-hmm. If you're in a basketball game, or if you're in a body shop and you're painting a car or doing, no matter what it is we do, if we have to think about things, in the moment, in the middle of what we're doing, then we're lost. We're going to make a mistake. So my job was just to get back into that spiritual place where I could drop in, pull out, and just be there, be a rock in my own world, so that I knew that everything that I did and what I gave and what I received from my fellow actors and stunt people, and the direction that David gave, or input that some coordinator gave, or Michael or Paul, like photographically, cinematographer, when we're looking for adjustments and nuances, it's really about being in that no mind space, because then direction is so easy to move with, and then we can all flow together. So there's really no preparation for me for the second one. I was already there.
And one of my favorite things, James, I would say, about you is just that your amazing relationship with the fans. Can you just talk a little bit about what this journey has been like with them for the past few years, and maybe some moments that might come to your mind like right away?
Man, I hate to beat this horse up, but it's like one of the most amazing things is the conventions, because when I get to meet the fans face to face, it's literally like little drops of love. Like I only get to spend a little bit of time with each fan, but the moments we get to spend together, looking in each other's eyes, sharing the passion for this character and this franchise and the work that we did, and through this process, I realized that we're all nerds. We're all freaking nerds.
Yep. The
question is, what do we nerd out on? So when people get to nerd out on things they love together, and so meeting the fans, and the fans are like every walk of life. I mean, like, oncologists and neurosurgeons and cops and firefighters and plumbers and, guys who are like, gaming in the basement, just trying to figure out how to make a living on it, and comic book fanatics, and people who have physical challenges, people who are, every single representative of humanity, shows up at these conventions, and they're all just amazing people. I have not met one douchebag in the entire process of meeting thousands upon thousands of fans, and it's just beautiful. These are really great people. I probably get more hugs than I should, but it's just like, these are such beautiful people, man. I love them. And I said this so many times, if the world operated the way a horror convention operates, we wouldn't need military. Yeah. Because people are so courteous, and they're so kind, and they're so enthusiastic about what it is they're doing. Ego drops away, and fear drops away, and all of a sudden everybody is equal. It doesn't matter how fat or skinny or big or tall or short or smart or rich or poor. We're all brought together in that moment for celebrating something that we have all enjoyed. I got to enjoy doing it, and they got to enjoy watching it, and most of the fans know so much more than I do about Halloween and the Halloween franchise.
Yeah, and it's almost like one, especially I feel like with like the horror fans, the horror conventions, I feel like it's it's just one big basically family.
It is, man. I got to tell you. All right, so through this, a mutual friend put me together with Zach Meyers, Michael Zachary Meyers, who's the guitarist and songwriter for Shinedown.
Yep.
Also has 2 side bands. Gifted artist, right?
Yeah.
So he has like all kinds of Michael Myers paraphernalia on stage with him. His guitar tech at times will walk, because he has a different guitar tuning for every song, and so he's got all his axes racked up, and at some point during the concert, his tech would put on a Michael Myers a mask and costume and walk out and give him his guitar then. So, standing side stage with him, I see him perform, a few times, and we've become very, very good friends. He's a super, super amazing guy. It was amazing. He came to watch, he flew in from Tennessee. He had Shinedown and just wrapped up their tour, and he, flew in from Tennessee to hang out in North Carolina for a couple of days. And so while we're in makeup with Chris Nelson was blown away at how much Zach knows about the Halloween franchise and about every installation and the character development and interactions, and but I think that's pretty indicative of the people who really love Halloween.
Definitely.
Like, there are people who know so much about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. And I know you can't say, obviously too much about Halloween Kills, where it doesn't come out till October, but are there things, without giving too much away, are there things as far as like that you're most excited for fans to see? Any kind of like teases you might be able to give away?
Wow. Well, I have to say, I have a 33-inch waist. My NDA is about that thick. It's like there's so much I can't say.
Yep.
And all I can say, I think, is that the ante has been upped because we've progressed later into the night, and now that everybody realizes what the stakes are, it's reaching ahead, and so the intensity and the struggles, and I would say it's I wouldn't exactly say it's 2018 on steroids, but I would say it's 2018 on speed.
Along those lines. Okay, perfect. Well, James, is there anything else that you would like to say to the fans?
Yeah, man. Thank you. If you didn't share your passion with us, then we wouldn't get to do what we do. And for us to be able to be drawn together and to work on something that we have passion for, and share it with you who have passion for it, then we get this collective beautiful experience. And I really look forward to hearing the fans' response on the on the new one. as I understand it, the first test screening went through the roof.
Yep.
So I think I'm thinking I think the fans are really going to appreciate it. And I'm going to tell you, man, everybody who works on that, we all super appreciate the fans because it's like one huge, massive global family.
Yeah.
You know,
yep.
It's different. It's different than any other film or any other genre.
Well, thank you again, James. By the way, guys, make sure if you haven't yet, or if you have already, make sure to definitely, visit James if he, is coming to like a convention near you guys. He's a super cool guy. Also, Halloween Kills, it's coming out later this year, October 16th, 2020, which I'm super pumped because that's right around my birthday, so I can't wait for that. So make sure you check out for that. And
yeah, man, we're excited. I'm actually taking off to Detroit tomorrow for Astronomicon, and I think I've got 8 or so lined up, but we'll be posting them on Instagram and Twitter and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, James. I really appreciate, you taking the time out of your schedule, busy schedule to do this. It was great having you back on the show again.
Thanks, Pat. It's always a pleasure, man. Look forward to doing it again many times. Hi, this is James Jude Courtney. I play the Shape, a.k.a. Michael Meyers in Halloween. And you're listening to Pop Culture with Pat.